Okay, yeah, good. Thank you everyone for coming again and be patient for this travel. Sometimes the travel is the problem. So, but now we are happy to be back again. So, yeah, welcome back. And then now we maybe go to another our presentation. If Yi-PeI can starting the presentation, please, Pei. Okay.
Okay. Yes. So, Gori, would you like to introduce again?
Okay. Oh. Maybe introduce again. This is Pei from SUAVEART, and this is Gori from Jatiwangi Art Factory. We are together from the Terracota Embassy, Taiwan, and the project called Wagiwagi is the one we are presenting in here in the Documenta 15 in the Hubner area. And then today is the activation program from the Rempah Embassy called Meeting Art and Ecology. And maybe Pei can explain a bit how it's connecting to the Terracotta Embassy and what is the program and what is who also connecting to this program, and many artists also involving. So to making can be clear, can be talking to Yi-PeI. Please.
Thank you, Gori. Okay, so before we start, I just introduce quickly about the outline today. We're gonna introduce the Seeding Future project. The first time we encounter the Lausa ecosystem in Sumatra Island, Indonesia. After that, we slowly develop how the interpretation of future life that related to the Majalengka city, and using the Terracota as the cultural identity to know the local movement. After that, we also hosted many workshops connect to the forest together with the local community in Taiwan and Indonesia, even in Germany. After that, we were introduced a little bit about how the Wagiwagi presenting the art and the ecology collaboration, and some of our artists' work are already displayed in Documenta 15, and some of the artists participate in the residency program. So some of later they will visit Jatiwangi as well during this year. Okay, and I would like to introduce our speaker today. So first of all, we have Chih-Hua here. Chih-Hua is also one of the Wagiwagi artists.
Hello, I'm Chih-Hua, and my background is architecture. I'm an artist and also doing research now.
And we also have the our botanical researchers, Trevor Padgett from the Taiwan.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Trevor. Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, Trevor.
Yes, I'm Trevor. I'm Canadian originally, but I've been living in Taiwan and working as a forest ecologist for many years now, and met and been working with Yi-PeI for various projects for a while. Yeah. So, hello.
Okay, thank you. And then for the last part, we will introduce how the artist go from the proof of the concept to the art work project itself, and also connecting to the sustainable living style. And at the end, we will have the open discussion. Okay, so in the beginning, I will introduce who is the SUAVEART, and then what are we going here. So SUAVEART founded in 2015. We are initiated in Taiwan, but now we are based in Asian city. Many of the projects are ongoing in Indonesia, Shanghai, and other cities. So as one of the innovative art institutions, we are taking the cultural values of the art and life carefully. So normally we do the cultural research residency program, exhibition curation, social practice, publication, and produce the podcast. And since we are starting to pay a lot of attention on the island culture and the art itself, so culture is also as part of the driver to explore the everything in our daily life. And our members are now came from the Taiwan, Tanzania, UK, Indonesia, Singapore, Canada, and so on. We during the project, we reconnect the community, the culture, and the creativity from the multidisciplinary. So this is our residency program done before. So we usually to have the open call program for all of the artists to participate. But due to the pandemic, the last 2 years, we do the online residency with the 6 months program with the artists from the Mexico, Chengdu, and the Singapore to do the island ecology perspective and the knowledge discussion. The more we know, the less misunderstanding will among us. And then back to in the early years, during the 2014 and the 15 until 17, we also using the plant dyeing and invite artists and the social community to experience how the batik, this traditional Indonesian culture can be involved in the arts between the Taiwan and the Indonesia. Because in Taiwan, we also have the old traditional culture related to the sand skill. But the batik in Indonesia, they are now still using more natural ingredients. They plant the multi herbs, and they also connect the culture to their daily life. For example, every Friday, everyone should wear batik.
Yeah, this is the one also our government also try to making batik can be more cool again, yeah, to making for the maybe young people or making for the older people to using batik again, yeah. Yeah.
So we appreciate a lot of the traditional industry, and we also appreciate the traditional culture still living in between our daily life. And in Taiwan, we also have a lot of the traditional Taiwanese culture, indigenous culture, and then we always try to not forget what we have before. Then the last part about the cultural research. From this, you can find we are not only doing the traditional culture, we're also taking the advanced technology such as blockchain, artificial intelligence into the artistic platform. And we also discuss about how the decentralizing system nowadays are almost entire the whole of the industry, and it's connected to the art now. And some of the system connected to the Perhutanan project in Jatiwangi also redesigned this system with NFT.
Yeah, maybe I also want to a bit introduce about the Perhutana. Perhutana is the forest family project, which is we are like the sell the land about the 4x4 meter in Jatiwangi to everyone who can buy the land in Jatiwangi, and then after that we will plant that land to making the forest. So before the big company buy all our land, so maybe we can maybe buy a bit for making the forest. So and so far we have already like the 1 hectare of the forest, and then maybe we need more like 8 hectare or even more. So yeah, maybe if everyone interesting, also just contacting us to also participating, and you can get also after that the NFT certificate and then the brick certificate, and then your name will be written also in the land with the terracotta sign, something like that. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
So to analyze the possibilities of the implementing the art project into our society, so many ecosystems could connect through the artistic way to be more performative. Meanwhile, it can be a practical solution. And for the exhibition and the curation, you will see SUAVEART also produce a different kind of project. We join the art festival, we are joining the hotel art fair, we also join the art week, and we also connect to the different multiple institution. So basically we are still thinking about the innovative way. It's also alongside with the art. So art is not just talking about the modern art and contemporary art, it's also bring the more avant-garde, more creative the thinking for this our society. We also do the publication, zine, and the podcast. As you mentioned, the Insular City Zine is one kind of way to extend our project exhibition more than the on-site project. And for the latest book about the tomorrow's practice is connect and collect all of the artists, researcher, and everyone involved in this project and showing in documenta. Yeah, this is so several issues. Publication connect to different issues. And how does SUAVEART work? So basically, we think about time-based project, and through the nature landscape and the cultural landscape, we will find the geology, climate, culture, history. Everything is interwoven with each other. And no matter how we come from the continental or from the island, the whole ecology or the whole the cosmos is the helping us to understand us, to minimize the cultural scape as much as we could. This is one of the logic things or the way of the thinking how the SUAVEART working with the researcher artists or working with the experts. So for example, later on when we introduce the Seeding Futures, the project how we enter the lobster ecosystem in Sumatra Island. So we're taking the ecology science and then invite researchers to be part of our database or knowledge-based partner. So researchers or experts, they are helping us to define the question. And then artists or the community invited by the SUAVEART, we will pop up the question for the now for the current society. And for the artists, they can think about their content, their format to join the social participants and the engagement. But meanwhile, they can raise the different issue to become more international critics. So artists, again, connect to the public, to the citizen, to raise the different consensus and then behavior. And again, the artist or expert can be retrieved by the public to be another intersubjective. Meanwhile, expert can share the knowledge of their logical or systematic proof to the public. Then all of the roles can be rotate by the different way of the thinking. So again, we are introduced the Seeding Future project. So it was the very moment we are astonished by the natural biodiversity and the sensory recognition. This is the current situation happening in Indonesia. So our collaborator is Haga. Yeah, Haga from the Banda Aceh. So they use the Global Forest Watch for the early warning alert system. From the right side, you will see now the deforestation already affected by the palm oil tree plantation. And in 2019, we went to the nursery season. It was around 3,000 to 4,000 tons palm oil tree produced per year. And within the pandemic, we think about the production will deduct. But however, actually the production is still rise within the pandemic, and we don't know why. And so this is still reconnect again what caused our global issue again, and then how the climate issue nowadays is still happening. So the tropical zone, the nature forest is still under the threat. And when the arts is a means of the communication, how we could realize the social value and influence, and then to change from the ecological environment to force us to think about the survival strategies for the nature and then for the future.
Where is it?
Stand is still in the SUAVEART station, and this is the farm, the palm oil tree plantation, only in Sumatra Island. So it was very spectacular. The original forest gone so quickly.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy. This is the picture from our last journey to explore and to discover the reality on the upper river situation. And in this picture, you will find the river is very low during that year. So the weather was very hot. And then the situation also is unusual in the nature ecosystem. Yeah, this is the SUAVEART station we visit before. It was good to observe the biodiversity and to follow the researchers, how they collecting the data, how they take a work to monetize the whole forest dynamic. And so far we also join the action to plant the tree. So the local community, they are buying the land from the landlord to change the way of the growing the plants. Instead of the palm oil trees, they are trying to convince the local farmer can grow the durian, banana trees. Yeah, for the wild animal who like the food to replace the palm oil slowly. Then the second research station we visit is SUAVERT. SUAVERT is a very famous swamp landscape, and which is in the very nature observation for the orangutans. This is the one of the research station we stay. So basically the researcher also from the other country like Colombia, Tanzania, or from the Banda Aceh itself, and connect to the Malaysian scholars. They put the whole orangutan family on the wall. So this is the very first generation they discovered the wild orangutan. He and she was born around 1982. So it's just a little bit older than us. Then now they already found their siblings, their children, for the 6 or 7 generations.
They're already 40 years old.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. They are almost 40 years old now, and the way of their grow up the children is very similar to the human. So kids should stay with their family, their parents, until 12 or 13 years, so that they can be independent. But before, they still learn all of the behavior from their mothers. collecting the food, how to hunt the ants, how to collect the ingredients, nutrition in the wild environment. From this picture, you also can see the year we visited in 2019 was really dry. So this wood panel actually should be flooded with the water. Normally, it's can reach our chin level, but during that year it was quite low. Yeah, so we can see the rainforest has the great power to store the water.
But now not anymore.
Yeah, so now they are
Very low.
very low situation. Oh, so this is the wild orangutan we met. And then Sherry, Xiaoling was working for the Bamboo Curtain Studio with Margaret Shaw. So they taking a lot of the careness with the nature and the environment as well. So many of the Taiwanese people are invited to witness the reality of the rainforest. For this picture, you can see the trunk and the full field with the fruit of the palm oil. Exactly. So when
we call kelapa sawit.
Kelapa sawit.
Yeah.
So actually, when we traveling around this area, we can see the whole industry is still working on the mass production of the palm oil tree. After that, we are thinking in the Laosa ecosystem, it was seriously protected by the conservation institution. So for the normal audience or people like us, we are not allowed to take anything outside of this national park. But we are thinking how we can transform this idea, how we know the knowledge that connected by or collaborated by the researchers to bring different awareness to other people.
This is pisang goreng?
Yeah, this is pisang goreng.
Important.
This is the food for the orangutans. Yeah. And after we finish the Insular Citizen collection, we also send the book back to the children to let them know the things they are doing is still very important. After the rainforest in Laosa ecosystem back to Taiwan, we also think about how the herbarium and the environment can raise different awareness based on the different islands landscape and the ecology. So during this workshop in Hengchun Peninsula, we visit the tropical botanical garden with the plant hunter, the Xing Jiehong, also the Trevor, and to take the night tour at the Banana Bay to see how the different ecosystem near the seaside. Yeah. And through this project, inside the Laosa ecosystem for SUAVEART, we are taking the role to link the cultural value of the art and life again, and taking care of the concerns of the nature. For the Haga, they are the non-governmental organization for the environment conservation and to balance the impact of the human beings and the nature. So we are considering about the many things that not just happen in the same industry. So many disciplinary experts actually can contribute and co-share the data based on the scientific point of the view. So since the beginning of this Seeding Future project, there are two Indonesian artists already taking good care of this issue. So one is Bagus Pandega. He used this huge interactive installation, which is triggered by the machine was triggered by the sensor on the palm tree. So when this sensor take the recognition from the tree's motion, the image will be destroyed. So the forest can be destroyed, and meanwhile the orangutan animals become vanished. So for the next part, we will introduce our research project about the interpretation of future life. So it involves and observe the changing landscape from the futuristic perspective. The systematic structure allows us to reconnect the relationship between the human and the old things that we are co-living and the co-sharing. So to think about how do we interpret the future life, Yi-PeI is one of our Wagiwagi artists. He is specialized in the fabrication and thinking about how to use the low technology to connect to the things we are not easy to discover, but it's also important for the things or for the object we concern. And so for example, Yi-PeI was learning this waffle structure from the architectural language, but to transform this structure into the fabrication to be reused in the food industry. So we think about the resolution. Resolution is the concept that they are composed by many pieces. And then the pieces can decide how the texture becomes the top surface or become the delicate surface. As you can see, so Yi-PeI taking another experimental project, redesign this resolution into the first generation with the ice texture, or with the second or third generation to discover what is the surface that can cause this resolution more delicate and that can be applied in our daily life. It's still in the very abstract ideas, but the way of the exploring the whole process is making us to think differently. This is another sample from the Yi-PeI. You can see this is the artificial skin, and when people have the tattoo on the skin, or when the tattoo be printed in the different artificial skin, we could have a different interaction of our body, our embodiment. And so the next step is with different kind of the people join in the Wagiwagi and connect to the interpretation of future life, this research project. We are thinking about how Taiwan can connect with the Indonesia through the soil, through the planting tree project, through the concerns of ecology. And things we, in the beginning, we know the project will be showed in documenta. So we also think about what kind of advantage that can show from each of us to find the common interest. So in this slide, you will see, so we are starting from Taiwan, doing the research, workshop, publication, residency program, or R&D at the phase 1. We implementing this project together with Jatiwangi Art Factory in Indonesia as the part of the Terracota Embassy and connect to the cultural exchange program. Then right now is the third phase to have the exhibition in Germany and to have the workshop, including the talk we have nowadays, is to sharing more ideas of this project. And actually in working with Jatiwangi Art Factory as part of the Terracota Embassy, there whole project connect to the Terracota city in Majalengka. So they are thinking about with the huge and the rapid urban development, can art become the part of strategy to slow down the capitalization? So within this project, they actually they provide or they take care of the land in Majalengka with around the 300 square meters. And for us, we are thinking about what kind of the things that should happen on this land. Should we bring more artistic projects, or should we turn it into the greenhouse? Should we connect to the local neighborhood, or who else could be involved in this new community platform?
Okay, so for the research, I will talk about the terracotta as a community cohesion. So as we know, the terracotta is an important material, but also the the terracotta is an important material for the Jatiwangi art factory. Before, they produce a lot of roof tile, but now they face the challenge in the industry itself. So they are thinking about how to raise the cultural value out of this material. So the terracotta is used as a narrative to shape future life, consider urban and rural development as a challenge and opportunity for the roof tile industry. The meaning and reinterpretation of terracotta as a symbol of community cohesion, clay artistic creation, implying roof tile in modern architecture. So we think about the terracotta as a community coherence in 4 directions, which is a cultural and ritual activity, the community development and strategy, and also architectural practice as an architectural element, and also apply it into the art projects. And we will talk about the community under the community consciousness in both local and international aspects. Okay, so first is the how the community consciousness happened in Taiwan and Indonesia. In Taiwan, the community consciousness is gradually formed and based on the agricultural, religious, and commercial activities, which is divided by different groups of people and language. And in West Java, Indonesia, people are connected based on the religion and the local fables. So the community consciousness is formed by their embodiment of a group of people, and also the rituals and the local consciousness. So what's the challenge and opportunity for the Jatiwangi Art Factory is that nowadays the brick and tile kilns are facing the challenge from the rise of new factory and the transformation of the local and global market. So which makes the people reconsider the future of terracotta industry. So we are thinking about the question we're thinking about is how can terracotta bring up cultural values in everyday life, and what is the new rural life for the local peoples. So from the first aspect is the cultural and ritual activity. As we know that the Jatiwangi Art Factory organize a lot of event and activities related to terracotta, such as Jatiwangi Cup, which is the performance for the bodybuilders of the factory workers, and also the Tambak Ganden, the music festival, and also use the music festival using the terracotta as a local instrument, and people and they gather people together on the plaza and to perform together. So where we can see from this event is their identity and the community power, and also shows their cultural heritage. And the second one is the community development and strategy. So they launch a long-term project, which is called a Terracota City project, which includes the Yi-PeI has mentioned about the 27 formula, and Pahutana project, the Terracotta Embassy project, which is also the one we are collaborating with the Wagiwagi project, and the Landmark project, and the music festival, and the Jatiwangi Cup. So we can see they not only include the local, they not only invite the local people to join the event, but also search for the collective or the artists from the other country to enhance the local culture to the more international area. Okay, so from the other aspect, we can see from Taiwan, we take the Shanhe tile in the tile factory as an example. So they also use terracotta as the material to make the architectural element, and also do a lot of crafts. So these arts and crafts are regarded as part of their cultural development of the local, and the value and identity of the local industry are passed down through skill sharing and education. So they will organize a workshop on the weekends, and that's people to learn from making the crafts together. And so from the architectural practice, we can see the sustainability and aesthetics of reused terracotta tiles. So these two case study, one is from Indonesia and another is from Taiwan. And this house is called Gandan House from a Sasso Architectural Studio. And another one is the tile fence of General Village in Hsinchu, Taiwan. So what the architects use it differently from before as a roof tile, and now it becomes a facade of a building or a wall. So by using it differently, we can create a different kind of wall, which is not as concrete as the before. So we think about the terracotta, the roof tile is a material which could be redesigned and also reused. So redesigned is because of these are all modularized small units, which can be placed in a different, really creative way, and also the way it can sustain for a longer time. And also the reuse these roof tiles by building the double skin wall, which is a weatherproof, and also it can control the temperature regulation. And from another aspect is the art project. So we can see terracotta as a medium to bring out individual ideas or transform a collective experience into a visualization or a shared event. So the example we take here is Taiwanese artist Huang work, and this is the work she made while doing the residency in Jatiwangi Art Factory. And another is the Ari's work, which is the eating earth. So he made the clay into the edible food for the people to share together. These to actually eat the clay as a cookie. So as we can see, the terracotta can be a really it can be used as an art medium in all the different ways. It can be to build up, to make a sculpture, but it can also be something which engage people together and create a shared event. So what we are thinking about after these research is that we can think terracotta as a community cohesion between individual and collective. So from the individual's aspects, we can think about the cultural difference and the diversity. So later on, the social structure is more flexible. And as a collective, we can think about the power of working together and the knowledge sharing and environmental development. And from another aspect is terracotta as a material for making. So we can look into the applied art and also the cultural heritage. So we see the art as a strategy which could be integrated into industry, regulation, and ecology. And the people adjust collective ideology while growing and keep the balance of the development and international and local society. So terracotta become a part of everyday life. And when arts intervene our community, we can also think from two direction. One is from the public space, and another is more a humanistic direction. So for the public space, we will think about the functional infrastructures, those in those public spaces, and also the second is the mixed residential and commercial area. And the third is these space will meet the needs of the society, and it will also be under the governmental management. And for the humanistic is that we can explore the local and cultural identity, and also we build the community trust by inviting people together to join the event. And the third is we promote the international exchanges, like the Terracotta Embassy project for Jatiwangi Art Factory, which they invite us to join together to think about the future of the new rural life. And the fourth is enhance the civic dialogue. So these are all the important traces in the place of living. So we think about not just the inhabited spaces where people all live together, but also as a community. So if we make the terracotta as an art action or as a way of thinking, then the inhabited space can become a place where people start to share creative experiences. And seeing it as an alternative collective action, people exchange values and action through participating in the event, and therefore form a strong relationship with the community as part of our local life. So the conclusion for this research is that soil is a material that people can easily get close to in their daily life. So after processing, various products can be developed, and it encourages the connotation and meaning of the art and the local culture. And also it could also expand the international relations and business trade. And second is people develop internal soft activities from thinking through terracotta, and so as to unite the community forces. So it's the one I mentioned about inviting the local community to join the event. And people's participation can be seen as a strategy to develop a long-term exchange project, and it integrated into their life and seeing it as a new rural style. And the third is facing the transition of the global and local issues. Artists or any citizen have the opportunity to promote and develop the new cultural policy. The fourth is after the central government release resources and rights to the local area, the social and cultural activities initiated by the people can directly reflect the civic awareness. So the community participation, integrated community development and placemaking. And in order to continue and deepen the local development, it is necessary to actively obtain resources from the international community and develop accordingly so as to resist the way of globalization. And also we take the Terracotta Embassy, Wagiwagi, as an example. It's the international exchanges. So it can invite more people to see the local cultural characteristic, and the value of the community can be widely shared. And also we take here to the next one. Yes, example.
And then for the next part, we will share a little bit about the next project doing the research between the Taiwan and the Kassel. So we use the greening as another methodology to think about the city city development together with the citizen rights. So you can see before that we doing the research and the workshop connect to the forest concept again. And back to the history in Kassel, the long-term urban green space planning is conducted by the government, has this idea to introduce it to this area. So when during the World War II, Kassel is the city developed into the many heavy industries, such as to produce the tank, trains, airplane. And after that, the city was retrieved into another perspective to involve in the garden movement in the Europe. So Joseph Beuys is one of the famous artists and the documentary artists to taking the art as another strategy to make the city more greening. So several governors has attached the great importance of this urban afforestation through the whole history. And when we visit the Natural History Museum in Kassel, we also find out the geologic, the climate, the evolution, and even the artificial garden in the Gammon Garden is all connected to the long history of this city, how it's taking the greening become or into the so-called sustainable living lifestyle. And about the Taiwan, we taking the Pingdong as part of the case study. During the World War II, Taiwan was colonized by the Japan. So when the European city are looking for a new city movement to join the world exhibition in the London and the Paris city, while the Japan, instead of the Taiwanese people to join this global event, Japanese to participate in this movement and then bring this urban planning to the Taiwan as part of the extension of the experience.
Okay, so then we can see the urban planning is not only influenced by the geographical matters, but also through the policy or the decision making. And so here there are all the different shapes of the street trees. For the Pingdong area, the most usually we see the number 1, 2, and 5. It's the most often tree we can see in the street. And for the castle is the number 1 and 2. So we can then think about from these all the different shape, we can think about those all the different shape of the trees. These are the way we form the city landscape. And we can think about how close we are to all these green areas. So finally, we drop into the conclusion is the geographical and historical fact of a city has shaped how inhabitants lived in the present everyday life and influenced the way people imagine the future while the urban start to grow. So the island countries like Taiwan have a limited resources and urban landscapes are deeply influenced by political and economical factors. But for Kassel, the concept of greening is kept by a long-term urban green space planning, art movement, and civic engagement. And the possibility of improving urban afforestation and civic aesthetics in the future will be carried out from the building one park to another. So it's the turning the city into the entire botanical garden and creating a sustainable relationship between nature and us. And the last part is the workshop we made in Pingdong. So after the research, we're thinking about how these thoughts of thinking about the urban, urban forest, and through the perspective of the children. So what we do is that the children imagine or position themselves as natural beings. They can be animals or a really or a tree or a little flower, and they are going to think about how are they going to live on the island. So from this workshop, we can we can look from a children's perspective, and also imagine that these land are there are also other creatures living on this land, not just from a human perspective.
And for the next part of this Wagiwagi project, it's the new community platform to meet the eye and the science. So as part of this Terracota city agenda in Majalengka, Wagiwagi starts from the various and the non-human oriented viewpoint to discuss the ecosystem of the island, from the debate and then clarification of the resource commoner institution system. An island might be formed into an alternative area through the identification, discovery, construction, resistance, compromise, and the negotiation. So what does the Wagiwagi means? Wagi in the Austronesian geographic language, such as the Stiraya indigenous people, Adaya people, it means the sunlight. When we double Wagi, Wagiwagi means the greeting to the nature. It's also the good day. And in Indonesia, such as in the Sudanese, there is a similar word called the Wagi, and the Wagi means the family. So we are using the natures from the sun, plant, and the soil as the context in this project. Through this new collective project between the Jatiwangi Art Factory and the SUAVEART, you can find this mind map. While the Jatiwangi Art Factory is fulfilled with the cultural value, taking the education into their local community and well sharing with the global community as well. And SUAVEART is taking the social responsibility in the economic and the ecological thinking. So we're doing a lot of the research and the sharing project inside the islands. So as a part of the collective or individual, there are three things happening with Wagiwagi, especially to mention the issue of the sustainable economy by using the material, spirit, and the action. For the material, first of all, we think about the materials could be the reusable of their whole life duration. The material could be the localization, such as the Terracota in Indonesia, in Germany, in Netherlands, in Taiwan, in Japan, in everywhere. And this material can trace us to the human history of the beginning, and then the craftsmanship become part of our human history evidence. Of course, then the material nowadays, to think about a more sustainable lifestyle, we have to take it more serious into their circulation. So no matter it's the products or goods or the SOP or the production, we have to keep the value on without the extra waste. And then the spirit inside the Wagiwagi will be more green, cultural value, and eco-friendly, to taking the different interaction with the artists, the researcher, community, citizens of their implementation, their programs, their events, and including the products they produce and to sustain their own survival strategy. So for the moment, to exploring the sustainable economic practice with the eco-oriented approach in Majalengka. During the last few months, we visit Indonesia. We find out the local industry is still very active. They produce that of the roof tile bricks by traditional way or by the more crafty methodology. And meanwhile, they collect all of the broken roof tile to transform into the next material connected to their building. And so with this 300 square meters, the Taiwan Embassy, Wagiwagi Art Labs could be part of the new way of the thinking of the art and the ecology. So in this September, we're gonna kick off this action. And we hope that for the next year in April, we will initiate the event together with the Jatiwangi Art Factory and also other Terracota embassies such as the Switzerland, Mali, Japan, and South Korea to have the residency festival. This is the site view. Currently, we gonna enter. It's surrounded by the bamboo forest. And how do we to keep the land balance with this cross the border benefits? So we're taking the Perhutanan project together on this site. So Perhutanan is the project to slow down the urban development in Majalengka. So nowadays, the international airport factory rapidly enter this new ecosystem. So many of the local young generation, they would choose to work in the factory instead of keep work for their family industry. And first of all, I would like to invite Trevor Padgett to tell us more project.
He's in southern Taiwan, which is a very unique and tropical and nice. Well, all of Taiwan is nice. It's a very unique part of Taiwan. And in this trees, but how forests, entire forests, change over time. And to do this, we use tree tags. And so this is a little introduction to what tree tags are, why we use them, and how they can help us understand forests and help us understand how nature is changing and how nature responds to things like climate change, forest loss, drought, etc. So the first, if we look at a forest like this, we often look at forests from above and it looks like a sea of green. But we have to think of them as collections of individual tree people, individual trees that are each struggling to survive. And even if we go to, this is a tourist destination in Taiwan, come in and interact. So first, we have this hypothetical forest, our special forest here. And in this forest, there are multiple species of different types of trees and multiple individuals of the same species. Some are big, some are small, but there's different types of trees and they're all leaders. There's a struggle to defend themselves against things like bacteria or fungi that grow on the leaves and hurt the trees, or animals such as caterpillars and other things that like to eat the leaves, and some forests grow slower. Forest height, the height of a forest and that can tell us something about the future forest. And of course, diversity, as forests change over time, some species become more common, some species become less common. And that's always happening, always changing. And that's the process of turnover, how over time, what we see in the forest is different. The species and the trees that are here today won't be the same species that are here maybe in 100 years. The forests change. So as an ecologist, this is kind of the big questions. How do these happen? How do these work? And how can we properly study them? And one of the best ways is a long-term study of the forest. And the forest that I drew before is only part of the forest. The real forest is happening, not the real forest. Much of the forest is happening on the ground, in the seedling layers. And they just sit there and wait. They can't grow. There's not enough sun on the bottom of the forest for these seedlings to grow. The seedlings, if you go into the forest, and some pictures you'll see later, some of these seedlings can be 10, 20, 50, 80 years old. Just sitting there, waiting for a tree to die and give them a chance to get some sunlight. And then there's a competition, more competition, and eventually one of those seedlings wins and takes over. And now we have a turnover, a new species here. The types of species are changing. And this is happening all over the forest. And it'll happen again. And these ones will get sunlight and there'll be a competition. So this constant change we call dynamics, the dynamic forest. It's always changing. And it starts with these seedlings, and it starts with a dead tree or a tree that is fallen over. Maybe it survives, but it's leaning over now, and some sunlight comes in, and the baby trees waiting in the forest ground can take over. And so when we look at forests around the world, this is in Paso in Malaysia, peninsular in Malaysia, we see trees, big tall trees, but at the bottom, if you notice, some of the sunny patches and some of the shade. Now, the sunny patches here are because the trees aren't as big as some of the more lowland forests in Indonesia and Malaysia and Borneo. But there's still limited sunlight. There's a lot of shade, and that's not enough sunlight for these to grow. As we look at different forests, we can see that the bottom layer is, we can think of this whole layer as just the next team, the next generation waiting. But they're not waiting for time. They're waiting for some of these trees to die and some of the light to come in and give them a chance. And so our job as ecologists is to watch these forests over long terms and see how are they living, how are they changing, who's dying, how are different species responding to drought. So maybe, for example, in southern Taiwan, these last 2 or 3 years have been very dry. So how are some species responding? Are they going to die faster? Are some species okay? They don't drink a lot of water, so they're going to maybe become more common. We need to monitor this. We need to see how forests are reacting. And the more we do that with more forests, the better idea we get as to how forests in general can work. And as we spread this type of analysis all over the world, we get a global idea of kind of how forests work. Every forest is unique. Every group of trees, every species is unique, but we can try and find some general patterns. And these patterns can also not just tell us how big trees are growing and who's there, but we can also monitor individual trees, individual species and individual trees of each species to check when they're flowering, to see who pollinates them. For example, in the top right, there's little midges are pollinating this hibiscus flower, whereas the other plants on the bottom attract butterflies. And so we can try and figure out, as insect populations change, how is that affecting tree populations and tree reproduction? Or we can monitor how long it takes things to get from, on the left, the top left is the flower bud, and then the flowers open, they get pollinated, and all those fluffy things they have the pollen. And once the flower is pollinated, it just drops off, and then it starts to grow into the bottom picture, a fruit. And this is a Syzygium jambos. This is a wax apple. In English, we call it a wax apple. Chinese name escapes me. But we can monitor how long this process takes between different trees. But to do this, we not only need to know different species, we can see fruit here from 3 different species. That's very obvious. But we need to know each individual of each species. How is each tree of this red and yellow fruit species reacting and changing? And to do that, we need these little things, our tree tags, because every tree tag gives each tree an identity. It gives each tree an opportunity to tell its story over a long period of time. And so this is great, and we can do a lot of work with this. And as we do this over the world, we can tell some really neat stories. Now, this is a picture of some of the big forest plots. So we have forest plots that have different sizes. Some are 5 hectares, some are 10 hectares, some are 25 hectares, and some are 50 hectares. And there's other sizes, but those are kind of the general classes. And in these forests, every tree has a tag, and every tree is monitored and measured the exact same way. So we can take, for example, the Kenting in Taiwan, the Kenting, Kenting. We can take Kenting's data and understanding of Kenting's forest, and we can compare it to the forests in South America, in Africa, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, all over. We can compare and contrast and really get to understand more. But it all comes down to those tags. And so let me take one quick minute and show how simple it is, because understanding these forests, yes, we do get into a little bit of math, not today, at the end, but the basics are quite basic. So what we do, in these plots, say we have a 10 hectare plot, every tree has a tag on it. And every so often, every 5 years, every 3 years, we go to the forest and we measure how big it is. At 1.6 meters up, we measure how big that tree is, the diameter. And then we are able to also measure or monitor when different trees are flowering, when different trees are fruiting. And we can measure how many babies each tree has and how these babies survive or don't survive. And we can compare that. And that's it. You know, with that basic data, we can tell a lot about forests. And it takes a long time to do that for a 10 hectare forest. But it's labor intensive, but it's not really tough. It's just a lot of hiking, a lot of tape measures, and a lot of yelling species names and yelling out numbers to everyone. But it's a very good way to tell the forest story. But again, the only way we can do this is with these tags. And so every tree, like I said, has a tag. And every tag has a unique number that is given to each tree. So every single tree that's above 1 centimeter diameter, when it grows up, will get a tag. And at that point, it's become part of the forest. It's become part of the forest's story. And it keeps that tag, it keeps that number forever until it dies. And these tags will be monitored. And whenever we need to know something, we identify this tree with this tag number. And so this number, this tag, can let us do a long-term analysis, long-term observation of individual trees. And when we get, thousands of trees in a forest, it's necessary to have an identifying number like this. And these tags, the one on the right-hand side, this tag was put on a tree in 1995, the very first time the forest plot was developed where I do my research, long before I got there. And the tree, as I was saying before, seedlings can wait for a long time underneath until there's sunlight. The picture I showed you is kind of a lie, because the forest and the sunlight is never there enough for a seedling to become a big tree. It takes lots of trees dying step by step, and the tree gets a bit bigger, and then the canopy closes, no sunlight. Then it gets a bit bigger, a tree dies, and then it gets bigger. Another tree dies, it gets a bit bigger. And over time, it can eat enough sunlight to become a tree. This tree in my hand was only this big. It was only about 5 centimeters diameter. Yet in 1995, it was 1 centimeter diameter. So from 1995 till 2022, it grew, but it did grow a lot. It was growing in stages and stages and stages, and it was still pretty small. And so having this number, knowing when it was tagged, and having data we have every 5 years, we can really monitor how different trees are responding. And it's a very, very, very fascinating way to see the forest. And so as an ecologist, sometimes I forget my field book and I start writing numbers all over my body. But usually we should have a field book and writing down things. And on the left is in the notes I'm taking for we call a phenology study. So monitoring when different individuals are flowering. So I go on around, hike the forest, and I check a tree. Are you flowering? Yes, no. I check the tag number, and I put 3 means no flowers, 2 means female flowers, and 1 means male flowers. So there's lots of stuff we can do based on these tags. Now, for an ending, an introduction, but the ending introduction, I'll take you to Kenting's uplifted coral forest. This is a very, very special forest. Special to me because I've worked there and lived there for so long, but also special because it's very unique in the world. And from my perch, where I try and eat my lunch every day I'm working, it just looks like a forest. But the secret underneath there is that, well, first, every tree you see has a tag on it. Every tree has a number. Every tree has a diary that's been written over the last, depending on how old the trees are, but 20, 30 years. But it's how many there are. When I said earlier there's thousands of trees, in this forest, there's 40,000 tags. So 40,000 individual trees of at least 1 centimeter in diameter that are living in the forest today. And in total, since so the first census took a few years to do all the trees. So started in 95 and then finished in 97. But since 1997, about 10,000 trees have died. So, when I say that and when I hear that, I think, oh, that's too bad. We've lost 10,000 trees. But as an ecologist, that's good. I don't want trees to die, but for a forest to be healthy, for new seedlings to come, for different species to have their turn, and for forests to be resilient against climate change, against changes in rainfall patterns, for the forest to be healthy and provide fruit and flowers for butterflies, for turtles, for all the animals that live in the forest, death is necessary. This regeneration, this forest dynamics is necessary. And so part of our larger job as ecologists is to monitor this and try and understand it. So 10,000 have died, but we shouldn't be sad about that. That's part of nature. None were cut. That's all natural death from typhoons and age. But let's go back to this forest. Why is it special? Well, it's really tough to see, but underneath this water is a coral reef, a beautiful coral reef. All southern Taiwan is fringed with a beautiful coral reef. And as you see this gray rock on the shore, this also is a coral reef. It's just dead. The rocks around Taiwan's southern tip have been pushed up. Taiwan was built of being pushed out of the ocean. It's a giant mountain range in the ocean. And the southern tip, the coral reefs were pushed out of the ocean, and they're still raising about 2 millimeters a year. But when the coral was pushed out of the water, the coral died. But the rocks, coral, they make rock. And when the coral died, the rocks remained. And today, these rocks, as they were pushed up, eventually got taken over by vegetation, by plants. And today, this forest, if we go this is about a kilometer in from the ocean now, all these rocks you see are old, dead coral reefs. They were once under the ocean. This area was once covered with water. Well, it was underneath the ocean. And sharks and fish and coral and everything you think about when you think of coral reefs was here. But it's been pushed out and now taken over by trees and various plants and ferns and orchids and all the lovely things that tropical forests give us. And so this really unique ecosystem is very special globally. This is not a common occurrence. This isn't normal. And so all the tags here, all the trees, this is within the forest plot, all these trees have a tag. And over time, they're telling us a story about how forests can live on a dead coral reef. And it's a very beautiful forest. And some places you can see in the middle of the big picture, there's a coral fossil left over. And in the middle of the picture on the right, there's some smaller fossils too. So as you're walking through the forest, it's very obvious that this is a coral reef. You see coral all over the rocks everywhere. But the trees, the ferns, the orchids, everything that's there has learned to live on it, and in turn has given the birds, the monkeys, the butterflies a place to live. But understanding how these trees live and operate requires us to have a long-term diary. And this long-term diary is the story of the tree tags. So as an ecologist, these tree tags, are small pieces of metal with a number written on. That's what they are, but it's not what they do. The tags actually tell the forest's story. And it's through those tags that I keep asking questions, whether I'm studying flowering, growth, death, or trying to predict what this forest is going to look like 20, 30, or 100 years from now. It all comes down to those tags. So the tags themselves are probably, I think the trees would argue they're more important, but as an ecologist, the tags are one of the most important thing in this forest and monitoring these tags. And one of the stories, to finish here, one of the stories that they've told us is about this tree. Now, this is a picture from a field book authored by Chih-Hua and some other people, but mostly her. And if you look at the map on the top, that's the entire forest plot. That's 10 hectares. And those blue and red dots are trees, one species, just one species of tree. It covers almost the entire forest. It's everywhere. It's the most common tree. And it's loved by monkeys. Those fruit that you see in the picture, love it. The flowers are loved by insects. It's a very popular tree ecologically, and it covers the forest. And this is strange. It's called monodominance, and it's a little strange. But what the forest and what we've been able to understand from monitoring it with the tags is that this tree, the queen of the forest, is losing her crown. She's being replaced slowly and slowly and slowly. The first census, there was about 22,000 of them. That was about 56% of the total trees in the forest. So if you had any two trees, one of them was a Diospyros maritima. The next census, about 18,000. The most recent next census was 17,000. And so the population is keeping dropping. And we don't really know why. It's a very interesting question. It's sad because this forest is represented by this tree. I mean, this is the queen of the forest, and we're losing her. But understanding how, understanding why, is all in those tree tags. Those tree tags that are dangling from the tree are the secret to understanding this ecological mystery. So this is just one story of how those tree tags can really be of direct importance for us understanding nature. So if you're ever in Kenting, if you're ever in Taiwan, you're welcome to come to see the forest and experience the wonderful coral forest that was once an underwater reef and is now a terrestrial wonderland, and and see the trees and see the tags and maybe take part in the history of the forest. And this is a picture from Paso again. So wherever you are, even if there are no tags, next time you're in the forest, I urge you to think about if there were tags, what would the tags be saying? Because as you walk through a forest, you're walking too fast, the trees are growing too slow. You won't understand what's happening. but you can try and take a moment and think. If you're there as an artist, there for exercise, there for whatever you're there for, try and take a moment to see the trees as the tags can see them. Thank you.
Oh. 等一下，我换一个耳朵。Thank you, Trevor. It's a wonderful speech, and to get more people to understand where is the Kanding and then where is the uplift, the coral forest in the south of Taiwan, and then to bring such the beautiful landscape to the people in Germany understand the landscape could be another narrative to connect the two cultures or two parts of the away countries, but it can reconnect us through these three tech things as part of the perspective, and then to enlarge or open another biological way of thinking. And so I'm gonna keep share my our screen for the next Wagiwagi project. It's about the colonial history and the deforestation from the Indonesian artist Aliansan Kaniago and the Bagus Bandega and the K. Imatsut. Meanwhile, with the Taiwanese residency artist Cheryl Liang doing the project in Majalengka City. So for the artists who joined with us since the beginning of the Seeding Future project in 2019, so Aliansan come from the Sumatra Island. During his family Old Kingdom area, the trees named the Kampu tree is famous called the Balus by the Netherlands colonial era. So the Balus is actually the city name, but also the Kampu tree, which is famous for its special aroma to produce the silulu, before the plastic things. Also the many lotion to prevent the mosquito, we know. So Aliansan, he nowadays using the Kampu tree to narrative his own country history, which is not included as the identity nowadays. But through the many historical stories and the archives, he find the Kampu tree or the Kampu tree product take a huge important role during the Dutch colonization, ship the products from the Southeast Asia by the Hindu-East company to the Netherlands and sell a lot in the whole Europe area. But the trees was overproduced or overtaken by during the colonization era, so the trees become very limited and almost extinct in his hometown. He was taking a lot of time doing a lot of research within the Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and now he's looking for another open data in Kew Garden in London. So when he was doing the residency in Taiwan around 2016, it was her first time to know the Kampu tree was actually living in front of him. And the trees located in the elementary school was already 800 years ago. He was thinking, wow, how come the trees still living nowadays in another country, not in his own land? And he started to become curious how the whole colonial trade economics happened to make this one special plant extinct in his whole country history and also in his whole family. So Aliansan Kaniago in this Wagiwagi project back to the Kew Garden and follow the botanics and the researcher perspective to copy to duplicate all of the plants come from the Indonesia, such as the seeds with the wings, we call 龙脑香科. Oh, sorry. Okay, I forget. Sorry, I forget the English name of this special species. Is very easily to find it in Southeast Asia, and with the project initiated by the Bagus Pandega and the Yi-PeI Lee. Now on site, it was showed by the Ecology archive produced together with the canvas. The work is talking the whole palm oil tree history during colonization. On the right side, there is a huge palm oil tree. It was the first mother tree called Emma, was imported by the Netherlands during the 1929 and was documented in the 1931. And then the tree is still alive at the Botanical Garden, which is the trees incubated a lot of the palm oil tree and sent to the Malaysia to Japan as the huge plantation systems. And Shiro Liang from Taiwan, since this March till May, he is doing a lot of the cultural research in Majalengka. The way he thinking about the history of with the deforestation is also related to the terracotta industry. While the people take that of the natural resource from our earth, we lost many actions to replace the nature. Even though we grow the trees, but the trees grow slowly than the human development. And meanwhile, when the capitalization happening nowadays into the Indonesia, many young generation people choose to work in the factory to get the better life. So he took a lot of the field research and the survey with the local young generation to ask about, well, how do you think of the working in the factory? How do you think what is the better future life? And meanwhile, what's your opinion to working in that industry? So sometimes some of the sentence come from the local generation is the morning is too early for them and the night is too late for them. It means the workers in the factory have to wake up in the very early morning, such as the 5 or 6 a.m. But the day they finish is until 7 or 8 p.m. It's overwork time for the local people. So Cheryl should create a series of campaigns and in the more humor way to let people read this sentence. And maybe they were thinking about the lifestyle or the action of their life change. Could be shift slowly, but sometimes can look back their hometown. And another issue of the Wagiwagi artist is about the lighthouse as the conservation solution. That is the perspective collaborate together with the Xing Jiehong, the Taiwanese plant hunter, same as the botanical researcher, with the UK artist Colin Breaker.
So, okay, sorry. Okay, so for the work of Colin Breaker, he works, he researched on okay, he starts from his daily observation of the bird collision into the building. So as we know, living in the urban area, we will always encounter this phenomenon. So what he's thinking about is that what if birds can see something on the glass and later on the bird will not
And during this issue was happening in Taiwan, there is the group called the Raptor Research Group of Taiwan. Normally, they rescue the 200 birds per year, about 40 of them, which would die from the window killings. So you can see from the pictures, there's a mass production, mass transportation, the MRT station located in Taiwan in the central city. And then with a lot of the transparent glasses, the birds are easily bumped into this route and be killed, or sometimes found during the way of his migratory route. So this is actually the serious issue nowadays. When we were in Germany, we know many European people already being awareness of this issue. So they're taking a lot of the efforts to avoid this bird killing by the commercial buildings. But meanwhile, in the Asia, especially in Taiwan, we are still struggling to put this concept into our policy, into the architectural industry, also into our normal neighborhood lifestyle. So one of the easiest solution is each of the family or the teacher or the citizen can buy the small dots, and we can put the sticker in the distance around 5 to 10 centimeters, so that it can be the easy way to prevent the bird. Sometimes we can put the fence, or sometimes we can put the other animal sticker. However, the best way is to think the solution from the bird perspective. So in this two collaboration project, Colin Breaker, he created a project through the transparent glasses. And Xing Jiehong, a botanist researcher, he used to work in the mountain area to protect the live specimen from the extinguished Taiwanese species plants. And they find out the special things from the human cannot look at the same as the bird. It's about the UV light. So for the glasses, the human just see the transparent glasses, but for the birds, they can see the patterns from the UV. That's why culling breakers use the different flora patterns, or even the beautiful patterns that attract the birds to avoid this issue. And for the next projects between the artists in the Wagiwagi is found a proof of concept to sustainable living by the Yi-PeI Huang, Li Junzang, K. Hong, and Ovid Lin. The project on side of the Documenta 15, Yi-PeI is taking the digital artwork of the Wagiwagi Art Lab, change it into the possible land. So the digital work was built up on the FX platform, which is keep the falling object as part of the materials that we may need in the future for this physical landscape. So the possible land to become another imagination of how the people living through the internet and they imagine this landscape keep growing and keep replacing by the different ingredients. And then the next project of the Yi-PeI Huang is called nature compensation. Actually, it's a texture sensor to collecting the data and then regenerate into the sound mixer. So what he done is think about a human already away from the nature for a while, and we are fully covered by the fabric, by the shoes, by the plastic matters, and to touch the real ingredients by the terracotta, or to take off the shoes and stand on the foam. is become the special experience for us. So the natural compensation also means our real body sensory recognition already replaced by the machine itself. So what the machine touched or what the machine generated could be send back the information to the human. So we are thinking about another human and the machine interactive project in this Wagiwagi. So when Wagiwagi is taking much of time on nature landscape, some of the artists cannot travel to Indonesia in person. So if we can being part of the representative of this artist and using the machine to collect the texture, the surface in Taiwan, so if he can use or he can feeling what is happening in Indonesia. And Li Junzhang is invited architect from Taiwan to design or to transform the new format of the roof tile shape in Indonesia. So this J shape is special in its curve and conjunction with the soft material and the hard material. So as a part of the pavilion design, so Wagiwagi Art Labs is still on the way of the construction. We are still in between putting a collective artists, researchers, and our citizens to co-create this pavilion. So instead of the professional architect to finish and finalize the old design, this design or this activities could we think about through the local community and the neighborhood. And then what things happened in Indonesia or in Taiwan in the future. So the fashion artist Hong and Ling has its own fashion brand called Ecology. And what's the special or what's the concept behind this project is the project called oral protection. So on side you can see the artwork is displayed together with soil. The shoes or the patterns, the net, the accessory, or even the jacket is also composed by the reservoir silk. It's also from the soil. So what is the imagine? What is the magic things here is we always think about the fashion industry always waste our natural resource, like other collectives show the flow of the things being thrown or not be used by the humans. But in the Ecology case, they collaborate with the local architect and taking the reservoir silk not only into the architectural experience and the material, they also transform this material into the coating technology. So if you are meet some people from the SUAVEART or Jatiwangi Art Factory, you can ask them to touch the fabric. It's look like the leather texture, but at the same time, you will be surprised by this fabric was reproduced by the reservoir silk. And they are talking about the sustainable economy or the so-called the sustainable fashion lifestyle. Have to rethink about our own circulation of the nature. And for the last part of the noun places and the ecocentric, the sensory practice, Chih-Hua, Huang, and Hao, and Anzi, also known as the Chivas, the host, taking the different practice in this part.
Okay, so hello, I'm Chih-Hua Huang, and I'm going to talk about my work, which is World Without Us. So through this project, it's literally means world without us. So so what I'm doing is to okay. So the world without us is I'm trying to explore through the reverse perspective from the world which we think that we can build the world into the world which is without us. So then it's the shift from a human-centric perspective to a more eco-centric perspective. But the ecology I'm trying to explore or define is not just through nature, but more through philosophical thinkings, and also the try to depict the perspective from the world, which when the human is not there, then where will our body locate, and where will our spirit locate on the land? So in this exhibition, what I show is a booklet of a collection of these thoughts into the diagrammatic visual understanding. Okay, and so for the DJ He-Hao, what he created is theta wave. The music is theta wave, and it's about the therapeutic music through the okay, so it's a sorry. It's a therapeutic melody, and for Anqi Ling, she Jiwas Tahus. She is the Taiwanese indigenous artist, and her work is Wagiwagi Temahahoy, and she transformed the way she transformed the local fable, which is about the bee and the position of a female in the tribe, and she tried to follow the bee hunter's journey, and she transformed her journey, her body experience, into a music note. And so we can see the music note here, and also a bit like a beef hive shape of the music instrument here, which is made by the ceramic, and also her performance work in this screen. Okay.
So thank you for your listening today. If you would like to know more details of the Wagiwagi project or about the SUAVERT, you can find us on this two QR code.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining these things, and maybe also see you in the real world. Yeah. Right?
If anyone have a question, you can leave the comment on the YouTube.
Maybe on the YouTube, or this is also they have some text. Oh, okay. Trevor.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah, Trevor, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Trevor.
I was making some notes throughout your talk. And, you know, something I think that is going back to the beginning of your talk about trying to connect people with nature and the science and that. It's also necessary to connect scientists with people, because most scientists aren't, you know, they're good at climbing trees and collecting numbers from the forest, but the most are not very skilled or trained in how to like explain things in creative ways that actually connect with people. So I think, you know, stuff like that you're sharing today is yes, it's bringing nature to people, but it's also really good to show people how to take their, like, you know, scientists and researchers to actually like express themselves better to the larger world, to make their work seem important, or to bring out the importance of it. So I think, you know, there's a lot of importance in teaching scientists how to think as artists as much as the other way around is important.
You know, just during your conversation, there is another botanics or researcher approaches, and he is interested in how we bring such abundant scientific data in the art exhibition, and he is looking for how to, like you say, invite the scientists to think different in more artsy way, and to reconnect the different community.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's great.
Yes. How about Gori? Do you have anything to say at the end? You are the host today.
Yeah, come to Jatiwangi. Trevor, let's go.
I'll get on a plane.
Yeah, we also have Zhifen, also Zhifen, the tree tech artist. Yeah, and our interns from the Tanzania, Bright. Yeah, also here. And then the K. Yeah, they just back Taiwan. Also listen our talk online. Yeah.
Hey, Bright, I have friend in Tanzania, Bright.
Hello, that's very good.
Thank you, Bright.
Go.
See you soon.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So, I think we left the other comments keep going on. And thank you for everyone for the today and the tonight. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. 谢谢。
Bye.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.
Terima kasih.
Bye bye.冷气坏掉了，真的好热。
Recording stopped.